Hello, I'm the X3Cat and welcome back to the video. So the idea for this one actually came from the block Cactus. It's one of those things I was wondering about because Cactus is one of those blocks you run across all the time. It's pretty common in deserts, right? Everyone sees Cactus all the time, but you only really ever get to see 5 sides of it. You get to see the 4 around the edges, and then occasionally you get to see the top, right? However, the bottom side of it is one of those sides that you just never really get to see in Minecraft, and this got me curious. How many other sides of textures are there in Minecraft that you never really get to see that might be interesting to check out? And that's what we're going through in today's video. 11 textures you usually don't get to see. Hopefully you all do enjoy it. If you do like the video, like and let me know because it helps out the channel and lets know you do enjoy this sort of video. But with that said, let's get straight into it, shall we? And let's start with again, Cactus. I feel like this is the most logical start here because Cactus is one of those blocks I spent ages trying to work out how you could see underneath it. I was trying to do X-ray glitches and stuff to see just underneath there, on the console at least. And basically, I realized that, wait a minute, there's an easy way to do this because while I was doing, the third person stuff, I realized that you can actually look underneath the block just like that. And boom, there is the underside of Cactus. And it's really weird to me because Cactus looks suspiciously like the underside of a wood block. Like if I pull out some birch wood or something, like if you actually see the underside of a wood block, it's almost exactly the same, which makes me curious as to whether they, think that's what Cactus looks like on the inside. I mean, I'm no Cactus expert, or whether they just took a wood texture and the wood's changed since then. I can't say, or retextured a tiny bit. I can't say for sure, but I do know that the underside of Cactus isn't exactly what I figured, and maybe it's not what you figured too. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to the second, block texture that you don't usually get to see, because it is actually going to be the, underneath the fire, I guess, because fire isn't really a single block texture more than it is like a lot of stuff going on, and it's usually a block that you get to see in the ground, so you just see this like weird mess of like, yep, that block is definitely on fire. It's a square fire. I don't know how that works, but I'm not going to question it. However, if you light carpet on fire, like I've done here, the fire actually goes a block into the sky, because obviously you're lighting the carpet itself on fire, you're lighting the block that the carpet takes up on fire, which means that the fire actually goes there, which means if you want to see underneath fire, again, something you don't usually get to see, you can just stack yourself below it, and you can see actually how the fire works a whole lot better. It's like 4 fires around the outside, as you can see right there, and then there's like this crossfire in the middle, and that clearly, with some weird stuff going around it, is what makes the fire look like this. And actually, when you look at it, you can be like, oh yeah, that is just like a firebox with a little fire thing on the inside, and yeah, that's something you might not have realized unless you can see fire from underneath. Again, fire isn't really meant to be seen from underneath, but it is kind of cool because this means you can actually kind of like, I don't know, go through fire but have it be at eye level. I think this is kind of interesting, and maybe you all do too. So yeah, also great if you want to dispose of, any blocks, hypothetically, at that level, you can do it pretty well like that. So with that said, let's move on to the third texture you don't usually get to see, which is actually, to do with a lot of different blocks in the game, because look at this obsidian right here. Notice how the ceiling of my little obsidian building actually has little squares in it. This is because it's no obsidian, it's the enchantment tables. Yeah, the enchantment table, obviously you could see underneath it if you really wanted to, but most people never do, and that's why most people won't realize if you use it as a ceiling texture, because you get this kind of second obsidian that, again, most people aren't going to know if you don't ever get to see it, and I think is rather interesting. So yeah, this is, basically a second obsidian. It really is just the same texture, but with this little bit of an outline, and I think it makes a really great, again, secondary block. If for whatever reason you're building with obsidian, just bear in mind, an enchantment table, it takes a lot of obsidian per block, but apparently it works just as well. In fact, that is actually kind of weird. It takes 4 obsidian to do the same thing as one, but let's not question that for now. Let's just instead move on to something along a similar vein, which is the crafting table, because again, most people only ever see the crafting table from up above, right? Like, just like that. As you can see, there's the crafting table, or from the sides or something, which means that most people won't recognize that underneath, it looks exactly like a wood texture, because just like this, boom, that's actually the same as all this wood right here. But more interesting than that to me is the fact that bookshelves have the exact same thing, which means there's some weird game to be played, or, let's say you have bookshelves but not wood. Yeah, there's lots of weird things you could do if you wanted to actually, just have your ceiling be built out of these things. I don't know where that would benefit you. Again, maybe it mixes with the enchantment table ceiling and means you can get high-level enchantments. I can't say for sure, but I can tell you that I think it's really bizarre, that all these blocks look exactly the same underneath, despite the fact the enchantment table has that slight difference. Then again, I feel like you can use this to confuse people, or you can use it to have secret enchantment tables, because no one knows that, no one even expects that wood might be an enchantment table, and especially no one expects that it might be a bookshelf. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to the sixth one that you might not have previously seen, because it is to do with bricks and the top of them, because most people when they look at bricks, and most people when they build a bricks, they usually build the bricks pretty high. So I've got some bricks just over there, I just kind of prove this point, because if you look at bricks as a brick wall, which is kind of what it's designed to be, as you can see just like this, it looks pretty good, right? Everything's going really entirely fine, and boom, we got a brick wall that looks actually pretty nice. The textures connect really well to each other on every single side of this thing that you look around, like, oh yeah, that's all entirely fine, until you realize that on, I think it's on like this side of it, yeah, I think it's like the south facing side. Wait, let's check right now. It's the north facing side, I guess that'd be, facing down into the south, you can see how they made a crucial mistake when it came to the brick texture, because for some reason the top texture goes down like that, and the side one goes like this. And once you see it, you can never unsee it, and it just ruins brick view forever, because you have to stack up, because as soon as you see that texture, you know you never want to see it again. So yeah, the top side of brick is something people usually don't get to see, because bear in mind, this is only from one side. From every other side, it, laps up perfectly. I have no idea why they made that mistake, but I think they've kept it in there as a joke now, because it's been in the game for so long, and they definitely know about it, which is interesting to me, to say the least. So yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the 7th texture that you might not have previously seen, or that most people usually don't get to see, because it's to do with pumpkins. So pumpkins, if you don't know, have to be placed on a ground, whether it's jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin. If I wanted to place this pumpkin in the sky, let me just kind of prove this to you. If I wanted to place it in the sky, it doesn't let you, because it has to be on top of something else, which means that usually you don't get to see underneath a pumpkin, because the underneath of a pumpkin is kind of a lazy one, because instead of being like this cool separate texture like, the cactus was, instead of being this cool extra thing, the underneath of a pumpkin is just the top of it, but copy-pasted, which makes no sense, because that's where the stalk comes from. But I guess we don't get to have questions. There's the top, there's the bottom. As you can see, it's just a weird copy-paste thing that you might not have previously seen. And the same thing actually goes for melon, by the way. Here's the top of the melon. As you can see, it's not quite so clear, because it's not like a whole stalk thing, but the underneath is just a copy-paste of the top, which is interesting to me. Again, I don't know why certain blocks are just like, let's just copy-paste it, and some actually get a unique texture. Like, on the other hand, why did they even need to do the cactus? I can't say for sure. I can just say that, ooh, yeah, that's a bit weird if you ask me. But yeah, maybe that's just me. Maybe you'll think that, oh no, melons and pumpkins should totally look like that. And in case that is you, then here's one that you can't disagree with, because it is just like a lack of textures. Because most of the time, I guess most Mojang/Minecraft employees don't expect you to go underneath a cauldron, which is why when you do, you get this unexpected result. So there's two cool things about going underneath a cauldron. First of all, is the fact that a lot of textures you figured would exist, like the sides of these, for instance, just don't. Like you can see, there's no side of that. It just kind of vanishes straight into them. Very weird stuff. So it's kind of weird. But the second cool thing about being underneath a cauldron is the fact that you get these little gaps, but they're not actually gaps, because the underneath this texture, like even though it's a transparent thing, it does still exist. So even though that's a tiny gap and you should be able to fire through it, you actually can't, because it is a part of the cauldron. So this means that this is a way to protect yourself and be vision only. If you want to see stuff but not happy we have to fire at you, then using a cauldron is a useful way to do that. Obviously not right here, because I can't really see anything, but still, I mean, if you place a layer of snow or something, and suddenly you've got like almost like a pillbox thing where you can be like, aha, I can see people and there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like there's some weird bizarre use for that, but most importantly, the texture you don't get to see is underneath here, where things get a bit weird. But where things get even weirder than underneath a cauldron is underneath a bed, because if you've ever looked underneath a bed, you'll notice how like the legs just suddenly just vanish, because they only exist from one angle, which means underneath a bed, it has the exact same thing as the crafting table and the the other thing I just mentioned, the bookshelf, where it just looks exactly like wood. Obviously, it's not the same layer as wood, so, people are going to notice the difference. But still, from underneath, people can't really tell what's going on here, which is really bizarre. I don't know why these legs are coded to only actually exist from one angle. If you can see, even when you're, like, walking around the bed, it just slowly vanishes as you do so. Again, maybe it's a trail. Maybe they just think no one's, raising a bed into the sky. Because, again, bed is a block that has to be placed in another block, but it is pretty cool. And in case you've never seen how this works, this is my bed staircase. So, if we set the time to night, it's a staircase that only works at nighttime, if that's a thing you like. So if we sleep in the bed and then we get out, and then we sleep in the next bed and we get out, and then just like that, as you can see, bed staircase, it's wonderful, totally recommend it, and it's one of those little side effects of doing what I'm doing here. So let's set the time back to day, and let's move on to the final texture you don't usually get to see, and this is one that's a lot easier to see on console, because cake stacks, of course, but yeah, basically, the underneath of cake is one of those textures that you don't get to see, because cake, even though it's a block like cactus, in your hand you don't get to see what's actually going on under there, like it's hidden next to you, and because cake has to be on the floor, of course, you don't get to see what's going on under there, unless you do a couple of things. Either you stack the cake on top of each other, or you go underneath it. Or in my case, we do both. So here you can see, underneath of cake, it's not just a solid orange texture, like you might figure. It's got some random little spots on it, and I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe they're like grease things, or I can't say for sure, but yeah, the cake texture isn't just a copy-paste like you might figure of some other ones. It is actually a unique little thing. And yeah, the point behind this video is that textures are a very bizarre thing in Minecraft. Like, I guess because they've been textured by so many different people over so long, you're gonna have some inconsistencies in the way it's done, but in this case, I just got weirded out a little bit, and maybe you all did too, or maybe you enjoy seeing this stuff. So, just in case you're curious, we can actually look underneath some other stuff. The other one that I, was going to include in this list, but figured, that's actually kind of obvious, is TNT, because the cool thing about TNT that you might not know is that, underneath it's got like the 16 little, individual sticks of dynamite in there. I know, I find that kind of cool. But yeah, I hope you did all enjoy today's video regardless. Like it if you did like it, because it helps out the channel, and lets know you do like these sorts of videos. Share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.